Welcome, YouTube. Light Twitch on a little bit early because I usually do that. So today we're going to be playing the Banished Vault. We're basically going to do one full playthrough of this, win or lose, before going back to the Shadow Empire. So I've been messed with the settings a little bit, so hopefully the audio isn't too loud or too quiet. We're going to do a basic journey. First entry, second entry, okay, doesn't really matter here. We're just going to hit new. We're going to have the tutorial enabled, and I'm just going to basically do a random journey. The stars have been inhabited for the greater part of millennia, through wars, plague, and expansion interstellar churches have endured. For generation, the churches strengthened the control over stasis, a hybrid matrix that sustains life in the long hibernation of interstellar travel. They send vaults, vast monetary cities built for tens of thousands to explore, colonize new worlds. On the fringes of territorial space, a colony mission conducted by the Auguria Vault discovers a phenomenon they call the gloom. Some summary annihilates the settlers, leaving behind only a meager crew of exiles. Exiles flee to a new solar system, relentlessly pursued by the gloom, to gather resources from a planet to create more stasis before being compelled to return to hibernation. They resolve to undertake a new task, to write a chronicle of their journey and transmit it home. So that's basically the goal of Banished Vault, is we need to make a full chronicle before the gloom gets us. Welcome to Banished Vault. This is the first of two scenarios designed to introduce the game. Game manual contains step-by-step instructions to complete them. The scenario introduces the interface, map, moving chips, so on and so on. Oh. Collect supplies from surrounded ship, then collect some stasis already present in the planet. Finally return access to the vault and begin my missions. Okay, so I'm on basically the tutorial at the moment. I'm going to flip through this pretty quickly. If you want to read any of the instructions, you can pause as we're going through here. In theory, I've already watched someone play the game, so I should have a basic understanding, though they didn't do the tutorial, so... Okay, so it's basically telling me to go stranded ship. Oh. Select with left. Ship has no engines. We need to give it some engines. Cool. Has currently insufficient energy to make that trip, as we assign fuel to it. The fuel gives it energy. One thing to note is the efficiency of the engine determines how much fuel or how much energy you get per fuel, with diminishing returns as you stuff more and more fuel in it. So you could hypothetically, in this situation, instead of going straight down there, could I... Okay, let's see. Select the ship. Okay, so there, in this one it's going to force me to go there, or force me to go there, and it's basically the same. Often you might be able to do stopovers on the way. That might allow you to use less fuel in exchange for spending more turns traveling. So now we've got a bigger engine, but it's a lower efficiency engine. But we will need this bigger engine to go down to the planet. In this example. So we can go look at the planet. The planet has the stasis that it wants us to go retrieve. And in this case I have to end turn because our guy only had that number of actions. And in theory, I can now... what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell him go to orbit. We'll spend one mover getting to orbit. And I'm going to swap back down to the more energy efficient engine, and then we can go move to the vault to complete the tutorial mission. And it was a little bit more efficient to do up to orbit and then back. So now we have technically I don't need to take anything out of the ship besides stasis and the crew member. We can do begin hibernation. I now have enough stasis to hibernate all the exiles, and all the exiles are present in the vault, so we can leave. And that's basically the cycle of a normal system. Well, not necessarily. That's you go out, you do stuff, you come back. Is basically the cycle of each system, and you need enough stasis to keep everyone alive as you do the travel. Okay, this is the second tutorial scenario. It involves constructing outposts on a planet and operating buildings to produce resources. So this is going to teach you some understanding of what to do in planets and such. Already started with our guy on the ship. Or no, in the vault. So we need to put the guy back in the vault. I probably don't need that much fuel. Okay, so in this case it's going to have us go to the planet. Obviously we're not taking fuel or food with us, or stuff with us to build. The question here is, do I probably still want to do this as 2 actions? We probably still want to go down here and then travel down to the planet, because the thing doesn't have enough thrust with the fuel efficient engine, and it'll be pretty fuel inefficient. So it's 11 to go there, which is 4 fuel. Instead, we go there, it would be 19 energy. If we try to do that all in one go, it'd be like 14 fuel. You could hypothetically do that all in one go if you wanted to. But 14 fuel is a lot. Instead, if we wanted to do 8 thrust, right, so it's going to be like 4 fuel to go from there to there on the low efficiency engine. And then 4 fuel from there to there with the energy efficient engine. So we only need to take, in theory, like 2 stacks of fuel with us. So we'll only take 2 stacks of fuel with us, so we have space. And let's do that. So we'll start the maneuver. Go to that orbit. And then we want to go to the planet, but that requires the more fuel-hungry engine to do the planet maneuver. We get on the planet. And in theory, normally you'd arrive at a planet and want to be building things like this, right? So in this case, it started with a stasis producer and started with a fuel producer. Let's end the turn to get his actions back. We're in the space closest to the star, so we actually have the most actions here that we have. And this tutorial is trying to teach us to do things like build the water constructor. So we're going to build a water constructor. That way we can make water, we can make fuel, and we can make stasis. So we're going to have to at least make some water, so we can make some stasis and some fuel. In theory, I think that's all we need to finish the tutorial. Now, we might as well take the iron with us. And I don't know how much of this carries over into the main game. So I will go ahead and sort of play semi-optimally here, which is we're here. Before we leave, let's try to make as much of the situation of being down here as possible, which is make more fuel, make more water. Use water to make fuel, basically. Okay, time to leave. Turn to map. We want to go to orbit, which is going to cost us fuel. And we want to go out to the vault to leave. for fuel. So you notice as we're playing this, there's a timer up here. When this timer runs out, the gloom will start to arrive, and will slowly start to eat the system. If the gloom basically eats a portion of the system with your guys in it, they die. In practice, it's a little bit more complicated, building stuff, and because you have to basically meet all the resources for the more complicated things. But in this case, the tutorial is slightly simplifying it. Okay, so now we're in the main game, completing the introductory scenarios, and my journey to writing my chronicles to escape the gloom. Once the chronicle is written, your journey is complete. Unlike the previous scenarios, this solar system has nothing prepared in advance. We must decide which planets to visit, how to create stasis or exiles, and to aid me, the manual has a general guide on how to complete the system. I suppose if you're trying to read this, I'm probably flipping through it a little bit faster. Faith and stuff. There's a particular page I'm looking for, and that's what I'm flipping to right now. This is the page I'm looking for. So this is telling us what surface harvesters, what they cost and what they output. The orbitals cost, what the orbitals output, what the surface converters are, which are things that you build and convert something into something else. So in our case, we will need to build stasis. We're going to have to build at least 8 stasis to leave the system. Otherwise, we'll have to basically leave some guys behind. Oh, there's something that turns carbon to CO2 and water and methane into... Oh, water and methane into carbon, carbon into water and methane, right? So probably don't need to use those. We could use those, but those are surface converters. We got converters. Okay, so the alloy producer on the planet is half as effective as on the orbit. Same thing with the elixir. And similarly with the fuel. The fuel producer in orbit is 4 versus 3. As far as orbital harvesting goes, CO2 and methane ones are allowed to harvest in orbit, and they're twice as effective in orbit than they are planet. Though I think it's a little bit more expensive to build in orbit. Because you have to build an orbital structure before you can build anything in orbit. Whereas surface buildings, you can toss anything down. Depending upon what you need. Okay. So let's look at the system. So we've got our 4 exiles here. As far as stats go, they've got Faith, which is in the left here. Which is their ability to basically pass skill checks, and sort of, in a way, their health. Every system we go through, they're going to lose 1 faith. So regenerating that faith is sort of an important thing for long runs. The bottom right is their actions. Their actions recharge every turn, and they're going to get actions based on where they are in the system. So down here, closest to the sun, they're going to get 4 actions. 1 rung up, it's 3. 2 rungs up, it's 2. And apparently up here at the vault, it's 3, though there's not much to do up at the vault. So to make fuel, we need water. And water is in a lot of places. We got water on this planet, water on that planet, water on that planet, water on that planet. But we also start with a bunch of fuel. So maybe we're not too worried about getting more fuel. To win the game, we're going to have to build a chronicle on 4 systems, and it will always be on the holy system, usually closest to star. So the scriptorium, right? So to build the chronicle, we need to build scriptorium. So we need to build 1 scriptorium on each hallowed planet. until we get 4 scriptoriums, basically. So that's the grand long-term plan. That requires 2A through 2E. So what is A and what is E? So A is alloy, E is elixir. So we're going to have to make, for each of those, we're going to have to make 2 elixir and 2 alloy. Alloy is made from iron to titanium, either on the surface or in orbit. Similarly with elixir. Elixir is either made in orbit or on the planet. And it is basically about twice as efficient to make it in orbit than it is to make on land. Though there are reasons you might want to make it on land. For example, well, in the case of both alloy and elixir, you need something in their production that is only available on land. So, do you want to constantly make the ship go to orbit, go back down, go to orbit, go back down to sort of transfer stuff up? To make that a possibility if you want to make it in orbit, but it is more efficient in orbit. So that's sort of what we got to do. So what we probably need to do is we need to figure out how to make stasis. Stasis is something that we have to make on a planet, and it is something that is made from water, titanium, and carbon. One of those, which is carbon, is actually better to make in orbit, but maybe there's a debate on whether or not it's a good idea to make it in orbit and ship it down. We're also going to need to make fuel. Well, I don't need to make fuel. We've got enough fuel, but it's probably a good thing to make. Probably want to make some alloy. So, iron, titanium, and sulfur are required for alloy. Sulfur and methane are required for elixir. So, where do we have methane? There's no methane there, no methane there. Basically looking for an M. Okay, so this planet here is the only one with methane. And it is a weight to take off. So our biggest ship would not... Oh no, the biggest ship would be able to... Ship mass is 4. Okay, so the biggest ship has a ship thrust -2, so it would be 2 thrust. That would be enough to get in and out of the planet. Good enough. Whereas small ships can more easily do that. Though we don't necessarily have more fuel efficiency, it'd be the same engine going up and down. So we could do something on that planet with methane to make elixir. Also needs sulfur. No sulfur on that planet. We do have sulfur over there. We also have no methane in orbit, right? Methane would be the only one we could get in orbit of those 3. And methane's more efficient in orbit, so maybe there's a debate that maybe we don't want to go for elixir right now, because there isn't a good source of methane. We do have 2 elixir. We have no alloy, so maybe we want to make some alloy in this system. So that's I, T, and S. So we've got I, T, and S on the planet there. Those are all ground resources anyway, so it really comes down to, do we want to make them on the ground or make them in orbit? If we made some alloy, we could hypothetically go make our first scriptorium in this system. It would probably leave us shorter on elixir, and we may want to make more elixir at some point, but basically there's 2 ways to deal with faith going down. One is to build the scriptoriums as fast as you can, so in the circumstance where so you don't have to necessarily worry about faith getting really low. The other one is figure out how to make elixir, because elixir is what we use to up the faith. But yeah, so we got 3. Take some titanium with us. Actually, no, we got 8 titanium, so we can take titanium with us. ITS. Yeah, so we can definitely go make alloy. Then there comes the question of, do we want to make it in orbit or make it on the ground? I'm thinking I probably want to do it in orbit. So we do it in orbit, then we can just have someone run over and make the scriptorium. And if we're doing it in orbit, we could also put a... do we want to put a fuel processor there? We'd possibly have water. There's a decent chance the planet would be big enough to have give us water as well. And then iron, titanium, sulfur, and water. Ship those to orbit. Make alloy. Make fuel. Yeah, it's looking like a plan. And the stasis is made out of water, titanium, and carbon. So carbon would be the only one we'd be missing on the planet. Well, actually, no, we'd have carbon on the planet. Carbon's going to be better to make in orbit anyway, so we make carbon in orbit. So let's assume we're going to be making lots of stasis and alloy and trying to make a scriptorium. So the biggest ship probably doesn't really want to go down to the planet, to be fair. We probably want to put it in orbit and have it do most of the shuttling back and forth of the stuff we make in orbit. So what do we need? If we're going to do a thing in orbit, we're going to need an orbital structure. So we need 1 iron at least. Whoops. No, that's not what I'm trying to do. Click. Learning the controls. Control. Shift. I'm trying to figure out how to split a stack is what's going on here. Game manual. Oh, well, I've got the game manual open, obviously. Puppets. Oh, we're already basically in topics. Okay. Don't need to worry about androids. We haven't found one yet. I'm going to try to finish this quickly enough we don't need to necessarily build things, like more permanent things, like ship engines and ships. Though I might be tempted to try to build some engines. Would not be bad to get some Caracol engines, for example. That's methane and alloy. That would be easy enough to take back as we leave. Okay. I'm just going to have to assume that there is a way, and I just don't remember it. Well, I haven't played the game, so of course I don't remember it. I can't remember things I never learned. But I'm not be able to find it quickly. And I don't want to hang around here too long. So, we need to bring at least 1 iron for the orbital structure, 1 titanium for the CO2 harvester, the alloy producer needs an iron, a titanium, and a sulfur, so we'll bring along the stack of sulfur. Oh no, sulfur's for... Let me keep this sensible. Make it, it's an iron. Make it is titanium, so we need titanium. We need 3 for the thing, 1 for the thing, 6 for the thing. So it's a total of 6 titanium to build the stuff we want to build. And in theory, that's enough titanium, and we'll have enough spare iron. Now, if I brought the sulfur along, we could just make the alloy. This arrives and just starts churning out all of what it's got on board, and we just bring up more from the planet to make more in a bit. In which case, we'd only be short methane to hypothetically do the same with elixir, but we're not going to worry about methane this time. Wait, no. I don't remember what I'm doing. Oh, I'm not making stasis. I have to make on the planet. Do you want to make stasis? We want to make stasis, alloy, and fuel, probably. Well, if we do a lot, we're going to want to do fuel. Okay, the stasis producer is actually expensive one, so that's... and we need alloy. So we need to make alloy. Alloy's having to be made. We're going to have to make alloy, because we don't have any alloy, and we need to make alloy. So... the mines are pretty doable. They're all going to be iron. So the question is, do I want to bring a second thing of iron? On the other hand, I'm planning on making an iron mine. So we need enough to make the iron mine, really. That's what we need to come along. I may take a stack of iron. What's going to go down to the planet? Oh, and we have some alloys. Start with 3 alloys. So one thing it looks like that's going to run into with the ships is that the ships don't really have enough space to carry both the small engine and the big engine, and the little ones don't necessarily have enough to do a lot of carrying. So I want them to carry their own fuel. So what do I need for fuel? So I want to do orbital fuel, probably. So that's... Alright, before we make it too complicated. I'm actually going to go so far as to say that I'm never going to take the cargo ship. It's not going to go to the planet. I'm going to leave the cargo ship in orbit. Could technically take the cargo ship down there with the bigger engines, but leaving space in the cargo ship for bringing stuff, I think is what I want to do. So we need an ally for stasis producer. The ship that carries the stasis producer probably also wants to be the one that... Well, actually... Yeah, so stasis producer wants to get made, so I want to make stasis, fuel, alloy. We have enough alloy, in theory, for everything I want to do in the system, but then if I consume it all, then I don't have any more alloy, so we need to contemplate making more alloy. I'm kind of assuming I'm going to use all the ships. Whether that's a good idea or not is a different problem. So, iron, titanium. Do want to bring more iron as we head down. Could bring the water, right? If I'm going to actually do fuel production in orbit, we could technically go down with water to turn into fuel as soon as we get there. Right, so to build what I want in orbit, one for the orbital structure, one iron for the orbital structure. Most of what's in orbit is going to be producers. So we're going to do the 1 methane. So 1, 2, 4, 7. So I need 7 in orbit. Then going to want to send 3 down to the planet to get iron from the planet. Another 1 for titanium. Another 2 for water. Oh, and S is silicon, not sulfur. Okay. I'm getting confused on that, but that was silicon. Okay. So 3, 6, 8, 9. So we need a whole stack of 9 to go down to the planet. I'm assuming that the planet is going to be one of the small ships. So let's... I'm going to have the cargo ship for the moment take the sulfur, or take the alloy and the elixir. Because I think I'm going to have them path down to this orbit. And then once we start making petrol in that orbit, they can then head out, one of them can head out with alloy down to the planet to make the stasis producer. And then the rest can go running over to build us the scriptorium. Okay, so let's start contemplating about fuel. So if we take water with us, sulfur with us, this ship only needs to make it here, at which point they're going to focus on making more fuel. Then the smaller ships will then need to do all the rest of the running around. Yeah, it's going to need some fuel. Okay, so it only needs 5 fuel to make it there. Do I want to send it with the engines anyway? That would leave us shorter on fuel, but we would have to make less fuel to make it back. I'm going to assume that I'm going to leave it in orbit. That might be the wrong assumption, but I'm going to assume I'm going to leave it in orbit and not take any engines with me. And I'm actually going to go one step further. I'm not going to take the spare fuel with me. That means this trip will be a one-way trip. Of course, the assumption right now is that it's going to get there, and it's going to be able to make all the water it needs into more fuel. So it should have enough fuel if it does that. Now, these ships obviously need less fuel to get there. Need 3 fuel to get there. To go down to the planet, they're going to need to swap engines, which also requires 3 fuel. Okay, so they each need 1 stack of fuel. Trying to contemplate the fuel requirement to... Well, that's going to be a refuel station, so I think everyone's just going to go down there. I think it's going to take... Yeah, it's going to take 1 stack of fuel to get there for everyone, and then it's going to be a lot of fluttering around to get the stuff made, the fuel made and such. Okay, so I have a plan. Based on the time, this is where the part break's going to go in. A lot of forethought going into the system, so at the beginning of next part is when we're going to start implementing that. So if you're watching on YouTube, I hope you've been enjoying it. We'll hopefully do the whole fire system in the next part. If you're watching on Twitch, feel free to hang around. I'm going to take a short break, and we'll come back and we'll do the system in a bit. So if you're watching on YouTube, there'll probably be a part up tomorrow. And until the next part, hope you all have a good time, good luck, bye for now.